Part 3 is a question and answer session, but more of a discussion based on the topic of Part 2. Candidates have to be able to cope with questions about the environment, educational system, and, in general, issues facing either their country or the world.
So it's more abstract?
Yes, and it helps to know what is going on in the world.
What if a candidate doesn't understand a question?
Well, just like in Part 2, he or she should request clarification. Let's see how Boya does this.
Now people want to have more higher educations because they want to get a good job, so they don't have much more time for leisure.
Okay. What effects on society do you think any changes in the ages at which people retire might have?
Sorry.
There's talk about changing the law about retirement age,
Yeah.
making it possible for people to retire later.
Okay.
What effects will this have on society?
Oh, so you mean is the retired age for people in this society?
Yeah.
What I know in China is people probably at age 50, they probably will retire.
And what will candidates be asked to do?
To express an opinion, appropriately introduced by I think, or in my opinion, etc., and backed up by evidence. Let's see what Danilo uses.
Do you think that people generally have enough leisure time?
No, I personally think that nowadays people don't have a lot of free time, and
He says, I prefer to think. Now, Boya.
Talking about the opposite of leisure, that is work, do you think that employers should encourage employees to work overtime or discourage them from doing so?
I suppose not to do that, because it's better to encourage them, to make them, let them know what they want to do, and they can do it by themselves to work harder and to make the work better. Yeah.
She uses, I suppose. But we are looking for a wide range of expressions, such as I really believe or what I think is. Another thing a candidate may have to do is evaluate, to make a comment or decision on how valuable something is, how important or useful.
So do you think that the change has been for the better or for the worse?
I think for worse, because of relationships and anyway, a few people had contact with nature, and they just spend the time with new technology, like I said, the computers and television.
So Daniel doesn't think much of the way we enjoy ourselves these days. Evaluation, I suppose, is another way of expressing an opinion. Is there any other way that they will have to use language?
They might have to compare and contrast. Danilo's response is rather good on this.
How do you think the ways in which people spend their leisure time have changed since 100 years ago?
I think it's changed a lot. Maybe 100 years ago, people didn't used to have weekends off or any days off, so they didn't have much free time to spend in doing some leisure activities. Whereas now, life is much easier. I mean, people have 2 days or at least 1 day off, so they can spend a lot of time doing relaxing activities, such as going to cinema, having a walk from time to time, or go shopping around when they have a chance.
He uses whereas to express contrast. Daniel does answer this question, but his response is very disjointed and it's not easy to see the grammatical structure.
What's the difference? It depends because of technology was developing, and so maybe 100 years ago, without television and without DVD, without CD, without computers, they spend a lot of time with their family, and now.
Another thing a candidate may be called on to do is to hypothesize.
Hypothesize?
Yes, to imagine a situation which doesn't exist in reality, to imagine what would happen if things were different from what they are. Let's watch an example.
Bernard, how do you think people would react if there was no TV?
Well, I think they would be quite shocked because well, I never had a life without TV, so I would be quite surprised, and it would be shocking news. What would be a problem would be that we're used to getting news and stuff really quickly, and we wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, you wouldn't get to know that the TV was out before the newspaper came out the day after, and that would be a bit late because today the society is moving quite quickly, so that would not be good. Also, well, if it happened like for a long period of time, you would probably go back in time and start playing games again with your families and go out and see the blue sky and take some fresh air, and we would probably go back to what we used to do, going to a theatre and playing football with friends, even though we're grown up and don't usually do that anymore. But I think people would panic a bit, and also a lot of people would lose their work. So, so many people would be out on the dole. That's not good.
Yes, she used would consistently, didn't she?
In a second conditional construction. Now listen to Daniel.
What do you think would happen if the government banned overtime?
Oh, it's terrible. If they had banned overtime, I think that people would do black business. We call that black business. So I think that employers would use the employee for overtime. So I think that it's useless to ban that.
Now, let's listen to Boya.
What would happen if the government said that people can work as long as they wish?
No.